Us, it's me back again. So now we're going to move on to lesson number 2 when we're looking at Unit 16 and sound. We're going to recap over some of the terminology that we looked at in the last lesson. We're going to hear a bit of sound today, and then I'm going to set you the next bit of work to add to your blog. Now, all of this work just comes under LO1P1, okay? So that is our research task. So I'm just breaking it down into bits. The first one we did was looking at open sequences of films. Today we're going to look at TV drama and work from that. The next bit we're going to look at is radio, and then we'll go on from there. Okay, so let's begin our sound lesson 2. So let me just start the presentation. Now, I am using some sound as we go on my other laptop. So I'm hoping that technology works for me. As you know, it doesn't always. And I'm hoping that the sound will be okay. So we will see from here. Right, let's go for it. So, bit of a game to start off with. We'll see how good you are at these. There are 8 quick buzzer rounds. Now, I know I can't get you to actually shout out the answer or put your hands up, but I want you to list down what you think these TV dramas are based on their opening sequences. Okay, see what you can recognise. So let's go for number 1 and see what you can recognise. There's 8 of these. Any idea? Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2. Is it going to work? Oh no! Is it going to work? Oh, of course, technical difficulty. This is where I start to panic. Okay. Next one. Number 2. Okay. Number 3. Okay. Number 4. These don't want to work for me, do they? Here we go. Oh, where is that? Hang on a minute, technical difficulty. I'll do my own theme song. It'd be like, Miss Samuel's lesson. It wouldn't do very well. Let's try again.
Got a secret, can you keep it? Swear this one you say. Better lock it in your pocket, taking this one to the grave.
What's the TV drama?
That I know you won't tell what I said, 'cause 2 can keep a secret if one of them is dead.
Okay, that's the first 4. Let's go for another one. Okay. Next one might be a bit obvious. This is number 6. I said I would never ever have this in any of my lessons, but never mind. Okay, enough of that. I think it goes on for another 4 minutes. I'm not doing that. Right, number 7.
The animals, trap, 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 till the cages fall. The cages fall, the day is new, and everyone is waiting, waiting on you, and you've got time. Think of all the roads, think of all their crosses.
Okay, and
Steps.
number 8. What do you think it is? So there was 8 of those ones there. Think about realistically what you think those different theme tunes are. Are you ready? Let's go for the answers. So we had number 1 was Downton Abbey. Number 2 that didn't want to work for me was Walking Dead. Number 3 was Sherlock. Number 4 was Pretty Little Liars. Then we had The 100. Then we had Doctor Who. And then we had Orange is the New Black. And finally we had Holby City. So I wonder how many of those you got right. Would love you to comment on the Google Classroom and let me know how many you did. Did you get 100%? I'm sure there's some of you that did. There's some of you that probably never heard of any of the shows. So whatever will be, will be. Okay. So, sound techniques. This is what we're going to be looking at next. You might want to make a couple of notes just so that you've got this and you know the terminology that we're going to be exploring today. We're going to look at a couple of keywords and then just think about how we can improve your blog post from the other day to make sure that it is ready to go and it's getting those extra marks because you're thinking about media language, you're thinking about how you're writing, and you're thinking about how it affects the audience. So we use sound to emphasize a mood. We do it to help really make sure that the audience understands the story. So for example, sometimes we use silence in a horror film because actually that gives that sort of held breath and scary feeling to the audience. Sometimes we have a piano playing because we know that that could maybe evoke emotion. It could be that we have a heart beating or footsteps to encourage a certain type of panic feel in what you're watching. It might be that we want to emphasize a fight, so we might have noises that show broken bones or punching. It might be that we want to really have the gruesome sound effects of someone dying to really emphasize what is happening. We might have a terrified scream or overemphasized kissing. But it's so that when we use sound, it really helps to create the mood. And actually, if you ever watch a scary film without the sound on, you probably find that it's not that scary anymore, because actually the sound and the pictures together help the brain process what's going on. So there are 3 elements we use when we're making any moving image product. Any idea what they are? I want you just to think about what 3 sound techniques might we use in moving images. Well, they are dialogue, people talking, conversation, sound effects. So these could be anything that are natural sounds, the sounds of footsteps, to electric noises or computer source sounds. And then finally music to create atmosphere and mood. Okay, so there's 3 types of different ways that we use sound in any moving image. Okay, and that's the same for advertising, in film, and also in TV, okay, or cartoons. So, doesn't want to go to the next bit. We looked at this yesterday, or in the last lesson, whenever you watch that, diegetic and non-diegetic sound, but this is just a bit more detail. So I'll just give you a second to read through these bits just to make sure that you are on track. But as I said, diegetic is all about the sounds that the characters can hear as well as the audience, and they are sounds that affect the scene. Now, one of the things that people get confused with is it might be that the sound effect has been created afterwards, after the recording, to emphasize what someone's doing. So it might have been when you initially filmed something, you couldn't hear the footsteps. So what the producers have done is added sound effects of footsteps in after. That still counts as diegetic because they try to do it as if it's a realistic piece. Maybe you hear a scream from another room, but you don't see it on the screen. That still would be a diegetic sound because the characters can hear it. Okay, so if we suddenly heard a all right, you didn't see me do it, but I might have reacted to the scream that I heard, that would still be diegetic. Sorry if I burst your eardrums. If a plane suddenly went past, you guys can't see it, I can't see it, but I can probably hear it. So that would still be a diegetic sound, even if I made it post-production. Okay, so it's just thinking about diegetic is always within the character's world, but it can be on or off screen. Okay, I'm going to move slides on. If you need a bit more time just to read through and make notes, then pause the clip here. So non-diegetic are neither visible on screen and it's not part of the action. So it means the audience can hear it, but the characters can't. So this would be your sound effects, which are added for dramatic effect. So extra noises that are put in for cartoons to emphasize the silliness. Mood music, like we've got now in the background. Okay, so it's outside of the character or the story world, and narration or commentary, like a voiceover. Okay, so that's non-diegetic. So what we need to think about is that difference. So there's a real distinction between the two, and it can really change how you view a TV show by doing it, and how a TV show can have more realism or anti-realism based on the sounds that you use, both diegetically and non-diegetically. Okay, so we know that sometimes the sounds that we hear help us to understand the story events. And if we have both, non-diegetic and diegetic, we really can add to those conventions of a really good media piece, because it means that we can really get to understand the genre and the story which is happening. So here's another few bits of terminology you need to know. You could pause the video here and make some notes. Make sure they're notes in your own words and that you're making sense of them. But let's just go through them. Dialogue, that's me talking to another person. So dialogue means more than one. Monologue would be like Hamlet, to be or not to be, that is the question. And a monologue might be that I'm talking to myself, and I wouldn't probably say it with my lips moving. So when we watched that Emily Blunt Girl on the Train, that was a monologue, but it was a voiceover. Okay, dialogue is the conversation between two or more people. Okay, so it's talking. A voiceover, as I said, would be like a narrator or voiceovers in our head, and we'd add that later on. Direct address. Now, If you study drama, you might know this already, direct address. It's like breaking the fourth wall. It's talking directly to the audience. If you've ever watched Geordie Shore or Big Brother, when they go to the diary room or they just want to comment on what's happening, that's direct address. You're talking just to the audience rather than as part of the story. So it is breaking that fourth wall. It's trying to give a bit more conversation and a bit more personalisation to the audience members. Now, every television drama will have its own theme tune, but it'll also have music to sort of show the mood that it's got. So the music that we see might be thematic or it might be ambience. Now, theme music, thematic music, was created because of back in the day when we used to have operas. The rich people were the people that loved going to the opera, and they could speak a few languages but not very strongly. Some would be able to speak Latin, but a lot of the time they'd take their wives to the opera and they wouldn't be able to understand that it was in Italian if they were from London, or if it was in French or German. But what they could understand is what the characters were like in the story based on the music that they used. So, for example, I'm a posh, rich gentleman from the 1800s, and they go and watch an opera. Now, the music guides me into knowing what the characters are like, and this is where we use thematic music, because there's a theme song for every character. The big jolly character has got a really upbeat and joyful theme song with lots of brass. You've got the very pretty maiden, and she's got a very light, maybe flute playing as she walks onto the scene. And when they've got a love story, we hear really romantic violin strings playing. The evil witch or the evil man that's in the play will have a very dark, dissonant sound, so clashing of chords. And music was used in those days to translate to people what was going on with the story. We see today that ambience music is used a lot as well. So in YouTube videos, we have happy, upbeat music as instrumentals to go with it. When you listen to the radio, you'll hear a instrumental track in the background, or what we call a music bed, to really emphasise the feeling of the show. So on One Extra, it might have a bit of a rhythmic rap sound to it. More on Radio 4 might be a more relaxed and melodic sound, maybe classical music, to emphasise the genre. Same in TV. If we see a horror, we might have more violins playing. If we see maybe a children's TV show, it might be more upbeat and maybe using more piano chords or more trombones. Okay, so we call this ambience music or incidental music. Either are fine. Okay, and it's there to add emotion and enhance the audience experience. So it might be that we have a more piano melody when someone's falling in love, or we might have darker, scarier sounds for screeching of violins to really make us hear what people are doing. It might be worth going and quickly pausing now and going to watch a scene from Star Wars or a scene from Game of Thrones and just hear the music that's playing. As you can hear, it's quite a dark piece, and you can listen to the incidental music that they're using there. Okay, let's move on. So, I'm going to play you the opening sequence of Downton Abbey. All right, I know that we've just played the theme tune, but I want you to listen to the opening sequence, okay? And what you're going to identify is what are the different sound techniques that are used. So what dialogue is used, what sound effects are used, and what music is used. And here's the big one. How is it used? What kind of accents do you hear? What does that tell you? When we hear people talking with the Queen's RP and they're very, very posh, we know that actually they probably got a bit more money and a bit more intelligence about them. And they probably are higher class. When we hear people that are like proper like this, we often associate them and stereotype them as being like poor and common. And that's why it's really important to not just listen to what they say, but how they say it. Same with music. Is it upbeat? Is it sort of just quiet? Is it very loud and passionate? What is the music that's used, and what does that tell you about the story being told? And what noises do you hear? What sound effects are highlighted most? What do we hear a lot of? And how can that enhance your experience? So let's have a look at Downton Abbey as an idea. And you can write down some things if you want as you listen along. So let's find it. Here we go.
I think you ought to see this. What a tragedy.
Morning, Papa.
Morning. What's that?
Just arrived. Telegram.
Neither of them were picked up, that's what he said.
Mr. Crawley and Mr. Patrick.
That's what he said. Her ladyship was the colour of this cloth. Mr. Crawley was his lordship's cousin and heir to the title.
Well, but I thought Lady Mary was the heir.
She's a girl, stupid. Girls can't inherit.
It never occurred to him that you wouldn't have a son.
Well, I didn't.
No.
Okay, so we hear a mix of posh accents which highlight that it's upper class, and then we hear a mix of also in there of more broader regional accents which were showing the poverty and that they're from the north, and they're not they're very high contrast to the posh accents that we hear. So we see it here from the dialogue, different levels of class, and we hear lots of long smooth sentences from the dialogue of the richer class to kind of cut shorter sentences of the lower class to really emphasize that lack of education. We hear the music change and the tone. We hear people sighing and paper screwing up, and we hear the ringing of the bells and the shouting. So there's lots to really build that atmosphere at the beginning. If you didn't hear it very well, I asked you to go and have a look. It's on YouTube and it is called How It All Began, Downton Abbey Season 1, and you can go and have a little look at that again, just so you can identify those sounds. Okay, now if you feel confident enough, you could use that as a piece for your blog. The more that you're writing, the better those marks are going to be. And what you might want to do is to write 1 or 2 characters about the opening sequence of Downton Abbey. Okay, so you might say one of the sound techniques that were used in Downton Abbey's opening sequence was the mixture of different accents to highlight the air of class to the audience. By using dialogue with a mix of regional and upper class accents or English RP accents, it highlights to the audience that blah, blah, blah. So you could write 1 to 2 paragraphs like that. You could say, the choice of music within Downton Abbey connotes or emphasises the mood by, okay, and you've got an idea there. What I've done is on Google Classroom, I've included a sample paragraph about a different TV serial, so you can have an idea of what the sort of things we're looking for. So you could use Downton Abbey, but my task is going to be this. By next Monday, I would like you on your blog to have 1 or 2, so it could be Downton Abbey and one other, or just concentration on one big one. I'd like you to choose a TV programme. This could be a soap opera like Hollyoaks. It could be Casualty or Walking Dead. I want you to look at the first 5 minutes. What do you hear? What kind of music is used? How does that match what's going on in the images? What accents do you hear? What are the use of language? And how does that help what you're doing? What sound effects are used? And I want you to think about the atmosphere it creates, how it highlights the genre you're watching, and what it does for the overall piece. Would you have included more sound? And what sounds would they have been? So a bit like with your film opening, but I want you to do that with your opening sequence of a TV drama now. Okay? Right, go and have a look at the example I've made on Google Classroom. Have a go at it, put it on your blog, and we can go and have a look at that on Monday when I upload the next video for you. And of course, I'm going to be adding some feedback and sending that to you by email. Have a lovely day. See you later.